Novos operadores. Novas oportunidades de entrada em campos maduros. Oferta permanente. REAT em funcionamento. Marcos regulatórios mais modernos. Um novo momento para a produção de petróleo e gás natural. O país abre as portas para novos investimentos, com olhos para a terra e o mar, abertos para o futuro que já chegou. Uma indústria forte, firme e independente se consolida, neste momento de somar ainda mais as nossas forças, com novos associados, preparados e juntos para inaugurar um novo tempo. ABPIP, produtores independentes e fortes.
Olá a todos, boa tarde. Estamos iniciando mais um webinar da série ABPIP INOVA. Eu sou Jéssica Cavalcante, sou membro do Comitê de Inovação e Relacionamento com a Academia do ABPIP. É um prazer estar aqui como mediadora desse webinar, né? Gostaria de agradecer a presença de todos que estão nos acompanhando aqui ao vivo e já deixo o convite para nos seguirem nas redes sociais do ABPIP, tá? O Instagram, YouTube e o LinkedIn. Antes de convidar e apresentar o nosso palestrante, gostaria de informar que esse webinar será em inglês, tá? E ao final da apresentação haverá um momento para perguntas que vocês podem fazer por meio do chat. E quem desejar o certificado também é só preencher um formulário através de um link que será fornecido no chat também pela equipe do ABPIP. Então agora eu gostaria de convidar o nosso parceiro da Universidade de Oklahoma, David Stewart e Jack, para abordar o tema sobre monitoramento e redução de emissões de gases do efeito estufa. So, hello everyone. Today in our webinar will be about monitoring and reducing greenhouse gas emission, presented by David Stewart. Hi David, hi Jack. Jack will introduce David now. Thank you for being here today, sharing your knowledge and experience. The space is now yours, okay?
Thank you, Jessica. First off, let me say thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Jack Zedlitz. I work at the University of Oklahoma in our College of Petroleum Engineering and Geoscience called Mewburn College. We are a small organization called the Irani Center for Energy Solutions, and our focus is on providing greater opportunity for all through reliable, affordable, and sustainable oil and gas. I would like to introduce David Stewart to you. David Stewart is with a trusted and valued partner of ours called Project Canary. As my work focuses on energy transition topics and focusing on how we can use the strengths of the oil and gas industry to continue to produce reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy, but while also mitigating greenhouse gas emissions, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and ultimately recovering and injecting some of those greenhouse gases. There's no better partner to have than Project Canary in that endeavor. David Stewart, he has spent most of his career on air quality. And as a new generation of entrepreneurs and energy producers springs up in Brazil with the opportunity at hand, I thought that this would be a wonderful introduction for you all to have. David, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you for such a kind introduction, Jack. And it is my pleasure to be here today. Really happy to be able to talk to you a little bit about what Project Canary does in the oil and gas space and how that may be of interest to the Brazilian producers. So first of all, apologies, I don't speak Portuguese, but I have been to Brazil. So bom dia. I was able to visit the Pantanal, the Rio Negro, and Rio de Janeiro at times in my life. So really enjoy your country, think the world of it, and I'm amazed by the amount of natural resources, ecosystems you have within the country. So with that said, do you mind if I share my screen, Jessica?
I think that you can share to your screen, no?
Uh-oh.
Yes, Nina.
If this
One
works.
moment, please.
Can you see the screen?
It's okay now.
So you can see it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I'm here today to talk about Project Canary. We're trying to accelerate the pathway to net zero. We're doing a ton of work in U.S. onshore, Canada, and the UK now. We're hoping to expand internationally over the next year or two. So a little bit about Project Canary. We believe that decarbonization begins with empirical data. We do a lot around measurement. So we measure what matters. We measure methane emissions. Who we are is we're an independent energy sector partner, and we're focused on being an ESG data analytics company. So with that said, Jack gave you a little bit of intro on me, but I just want to provide a little bit more before I dig into this presentation. So I just joined Project Canary in November of last year. I'm the Vice President of Environmental Solutions for them, developing new markets, new ways to use information and data. And I come to Project Canary with 30 plus years of oil and gas experience, as Jack mentioned, primarily in air quality. But the last 16 years, I did work within producers within the United States. So I worked for Crestone Peak Resources, Bonanza Creek, and then in Canna prior to that. So deep industry experience, know what some of the challenges you're dealing with. So with that, I'll get into this presentation a little more. Please feel free to stop me if you'd like. I'm going to end a little early to allow for questions at the end. So we'll just keep going. Thank you. So what do? We certify gas. We certify lower emissions gas. Why is this important? It's because methane emissions have this 25 to 85 potential impact greater than carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So we feel it's very important to try to limit and reduce methane as quickly as possible to try to reduce the biggest effects of climate change that we possibly can. We're very integral into the responsibly sourced gas market. Our certification is widely used as the bar for measurement for responsibly sourced gas. And our focus is really on preventing methane leaks in the natural gas supply chain, and helping our customers connect to those potential markets that are interested in lower methane emissions gas. So there's a tremendous pressure, and I'm sure you're feeling it down in Brazil as well. But investors are putting a lot of scrutiny on their investments and their methane footprint, their GHG footprint. Regulators, the regulators in the United States and Europe are heavily regulating methane now, and I believe that's going across the world. And as far as I know, you may be ahead of us in Brazil. I just am not familiar with your current regulations down there, but be happy to dig into more on that. Also, the end buyers are really demanding this responsibly sourced gas. So a little story there, working closely with a French LNG buyer, NG, and they're really focused on demanding lower methane gas and be brought into the EU through their system. So the end buyers are really driving a lot of this. And then finally, the operators themselves are driving this so that they meet their ESG performance goals. They have better access to capital, and they maintain their social license to operate in the area that they're operating in. We do believe that there's emissions reduction possible through the use of our continuous monitoring system. This is the US EPA estimated data in the yellow as far as methane, and in the blue, and then in the yellow is the actual emissions. So you can see the actual emissions are way underrepresented, at least here in the United States, as far as fugitive methane emissions. And so our goal is to try to drive these two together so that the actual emissions become lower and more closer, and we can estimate them better or calculate the emission rate from them directly. So there's a lot of preventable leaks in the supply chain of natural gas. Not all of them are preventable, as some would like to think, but most are preventable. A lot of these emissions are intermittent, so they're hard to find, and that's where continuous monitoring really helps companies figure out where they're leaking, when they're leaking, and how to prevent it from going forward. Our dashboard is the key to that, with real-time data and quantification loaded to the dashboard minute by minute through the cloud. This picture on the left here is interesting. That's an aerial image a satellite resolution image. So this is what you'd see from the satellite or be given if you were to pay for that service. As you can see, it's a very big area that's 2,000 meters by 2,000 meter resolution. I think that's starting to get better, and they're starting to hone that in. But our resolution is more on the facility level, and you can see the heat map there on the right, which points to the fact that we can actually tell you exactly which operation the methane is coming from and roughly how much it is. So our platform is a data integration platform where we combine three products: our environmental assessment and certification products, our data devices and web dashboard, and then the quantifications of emissions intensity. The dashboard is on your right here. You can see, I'll get into that a little bit more in detail here in a minute of what each part of that dashboard is. But first, we'll go into the environmental assessment. We believe ours is the most dynamic and robust certification on the market, looking at air, water, land, and community. It's a very comprehensive review of a number of environmental facets, and it's also dynamic. So it's looked at constantly after a company gets their certification. That can be adjusted. Many of our companies are working with us to improve their scores, and then unfortunately some have incidents that might bring their scores back down for a period of time that then we can reevaluate that. But it's both a qualitative and quantitative audit. It's hundreds of distinct data points. We have 24 impact categories and over 1,000 pages of documentation reviewed and certified for every wellbore that we evaluate. It's a holistic assessment. I won't get into every word on this slide, but really we're looking at these 4 categories in very minute detail. And what it results in is a score. And the score is then important for the company to be used for either their reporting in their ESG reports or their use in trying to procure responsibly sourced gas contracts, or for their shareholders or other stakeholders interested in their environmental performance. This certification can backstop that with a proven, reliable process that can be reported out on. We do really try to drive improvement. So those folks that come in and score a little lower with us, silver or even evaluated, oftentimes we have post-consultation follow-up with them on how that can be improved and what they can do as a company to change that over time. And a lot of times companies are very responsive to that and work towards continual improvement. Again, this is a little bit of a chart of how the process is conducted. I won't get into this at all, but roughly a 16-week process, very coordinated with the client, and we actually go do physical field visits of the assets as well as online coordination and ad hoc meetings with all the subject matter experts within the company. We'll note that we do a lot of engineering evaluation and drilling, completions, flow back, not only the production, but we evaluate the wellbore design to ensure that it's capable of protecting aquifers as well as being leak-free in the future. So how do we do the monitoring? We do it with 3 different offerings. We have a low-cost option, a medium-cost option, and a high-cost option. All of them have different purposes. The Canary Nubo I'll talk to first. It is a metal oxide-based sensor that is very accurate. It does have some issues occasionally with humidity and things like that we're working through, but that's why it is our lower-cost offering. But it does do reliable methane emissions measurement for us and can be plugged into our dashboard. Our premium offerings are Canary X methane monitor, which is a tunable diode laser based system. It's highly calibrated, highly accurate. It's less affected by environmental conditions, very robust. Both of these sensors need to be connected somehow to the cloud. So typically it's through cell phone service. And in knowing Brazil and some of the remote areas that that may be a challenge, maybe something to work through if we were to do monitoring down there, how to actually communicate the signals back to the cloud. The final offering I'll mention is ARIS. ARIS is our newest sensor that we just purchased, the entire company, in January of this year. It is a high fidelity, what I would call reference method sensor. So it's used by federal agencies in the United States and now being contemplated in Europe by federal agencies as a reference method sensor. It is more expensive, but it's highly accurate. It's small. It can be drone mounted, can be put in a vehicle, on a truck, driven around. They can tune it to a variety of different pollutants. For this conversation, I'll just say that they can do methane and ethane, which allows a company to determine what's biogenic versus what's thermogenically produced in their gas based on the differentiation between methane and ethane readings. So that's kind of interesting, and we're using that a lot for a lot of different applications right now. I won't read all this, but you can see our detection limits, target gases, and limitations that we note here. But that's for your reference. So we have over 1,000 Canary X's deployed across the United States and Canada. We also have some now working in the UK. But basically, this is a picture of one. It's mounted on a 10-foot pole. It has an anemometer, so it does wind speed, wind direction. And that's really the key to our quantification and source attribution algorithms. It's powered by solar panels, and it's very modular. As I mentioned, the big thing is connectability to the cloud. So for any type of international application, we have to customize that to make sure we have connection. It's highly accurate, cost-effective, reliable. Last 7 years, detection limits down at 0.4 ppm, which is some of the lowest in the business. That's all I'll say on this slide. I want to leave time for questions. This is a picture of our dashboard. So as you can see, we have the monitored sites is listed on the left. So when you sign up for our service, you only see your data. This is your data and your data alone to share externally if you so choose. We never release the data to anyone else without written permission from the owner-operator of the data. This is the primary thing. It's the GHG pollution readings or methane readings, depending on what we're monitoring. We can also monitor CO2, and we can monitor VOCs, which aren't necessarily GHGs, but very important for other customers that are interested in public health type applications. Down here, you have a constant wind speed, wind direction with these arrows that generally point to where the wind is going when you're seeing an event. And then you have a site map here. And on the site map, you have the equipment blocked out in red blocks. This is used for a source attribution model. And then the monitors are listed here in the green with their coordinates, lat long, and as well as directional distance and from the site itself. And then over here, we have a windrows. And so what happens is when you have an event, an emissions event, it'll show up here as a spiked reading, say one of these. You'll go down as an operator and say, which way was the wind blowing, which sensor? And then it'll tell you approximately which piece of equipment might be leaking. Or alternative, interestingly enough, you may indicate that you have a off-site and methane emission source. And that's the beauty of having the wind and the meteorological data associated with the methane levels, so you know exactly where it's coming from. Finally, on this, you'll have a series of alerts. These are set up by the operator themselves as far as what they want to respond to and what they don't want to respond to. This is a little bit of a sneak peek into our quantification dashboard. It's already changed since this slide has been put together. As you can see, it's in beta form, but it will tell you from each type of equipment identified what the emission rate is specifically in kilograms per hour or scuffs per hour or pounds per hour, whatever units you want to use, and tell you approximately where that's coming from. The bottom shows the heat map where you can see it tells you where these emissions are coming from. Tanks, separators, wellheads, no surprises. These are actually pretty low emissions you're seeing there, around the 1 to 2 kilogram per hour on average. But it allows you to have a traceable value chain from emissions sources all the way to where you sell your product. So the key to this is, how do I get my gas in the RSG market? And this is one way to do it, is to demonstrate that you have low emissions through measurement. I'm going to kind of skip by this slide, but it's in this one. This is just an example of some of the things we found while we're monitoring. I'll point out a couple of these. In Colorado, for instance, you have to have thief hatches closed on your tanks no matter what, due to regulation. You normally wouldn't find that thief hatch left open until you did a normal inspection, which in Colorado are quarterly. So we detected it with our sensor in less than 4 hours, which is a big emission reduction for that particular operator. Another one I'll point out, because this happened on one of my locations when I was a customer of Project Canary, but we found out that the water hauling company wasn't hooking up the vapor return lines. We discovered it multiple nights in a row. This operator was doing it in the night when we couldn't normally see them. And so this technology allowed us to identify that inappropriate behavior and put a stop to that. We've done a lot of work in the testing realm. This is to determine whether our technology is accurate. We work with a lab at Colorado State University called METEC, and they test this regularly. And I'll just kind of make this simple. The graph on the right is really the essence of this. So you have what the site does is they actually mimic a release at a production location, a mocked up production location. And then the technology has to predict whether what rate is being emitted and from where that's coming from. And as you can see, our errors are somewhat, in the 20 to 10% range, in some instances on average of 2.9%. We're actually in the process of retesting right now with new technology and new algorithms. So we're hoping to drop these error bars significantly in the coming months. But this was the testing we've already conducted to date. Our assessment's a little different than some of the others you may have heard about, MIQ and equitable origin. You can see that the big differentiator, I think, is that we require methane intensity, and we have a limit on what that methane intensity can be to get the highest rating in our certification. And we also require continuous monitoring. None of the other certifications require that necessarily. They're more estimate based, and we believe we're more accurate and performance based and measurement based than they are. So just a little comparison there for you. This is really, I think, of most interest maybe to some Brazilian producers. We're working a lot with upstream producers, gathering, processing, the pipeline, the LNG, and the utilities, the end markets. So we're really trying to bring value across the entire chain, from upstream to downstream, all the way to the end user. As I mentioned, ENGIE is one of the international buyers of liquefied natural gas that we're speaking with directly almost daily. We're also talking with a number of other companies in Europe about their import, and they're very interested in having certified gas throughout the entire value chain become their product that they're marketing within the EU. In the US, and we're working with a lot of utilities that are interested in reducing their methane emissions footprint through their value chain. So the big one on here, Xcel Energy, is all the way from Minnesota to Texas, large area scale utility provider. They've announced that they're going 100% responsibly sourced gas by 2030, and we're their partner in helping them get there through measurement and the assessment process. So what's the value prop of what we offer? We educate our stakeholders. Basically, we work with the end consumer of this product to develop policies to buy minimum percentage of RSG gas, to define what RSG gas is. And then over time, this will increase supply of higher premium gas to the markets and become a differentiator for production companies and operators such as yourself. So RSG, we coined the term RSG at Project Canary, and we actually allowed that to be released into the general public so it can be used by all. But I thought it was interesting that we coined that term over 2 years ago before it was popular, and actually have patent rights to that term that we've released. But really what we're trying to do is certify low methane intensity gas and the top tier RSG uses for that. So what we define as a low methane intensity is below 0.2% at each well. And the industry average is pushing 1.3 to 2%. So as an industry, we got our work cut out for us. But I do believe it's achievable through proper practices. And I've actually made that happen at 3 different companies. So what are the benefits of buying certified low methane responsibly sourced gas? You're buying certified gas that reduces methane emissions by 80%, or in your case, you might be selling gas that has that reduced footprint. It drives the oil and gas industry to improve, to reduce our leaks now, reduce our methane footprint, help tackle climate change, and help the industry succeed during this pivotal time. We also pushing the other aspects that are very important: water, land use, things like that are very important for reducing our overall impact, as well as community. All those things are looked at. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing and open it up for questions if you have them. Be happy to answer those. You still there? Hello?
Hi. Okay, David, amazing presentation. Thank you so much. Now we have a moment for questions sent by chat. Okay, the first questions was Carlos Aquino. He asked, are there difference between gas, liquid, and vapor gas? You know these questions, David?
Yeah, sure. So the way I look at it is gas vented as an intentional venting event that's needed to produce oil. And oftentimes venting is flared in the United States. I'm sure that's the same case in Brazil and other places. But that's how I define venting. As far as fugitive emissions goes, those are more accidental, smaller incidental leaks that occur at the facility due to things like gaskets being wore out, or just leaks in valves and pressure relief systems, things that are supposed to wear out over time and can be fixed through maintenance.
That's okay. Thanks for the reply. And can I read for next question? Okay, the next questions was Mesh Chavari. Does climate change impact renewable energy sources? What is your view on the heat wave in Europe? It's polemic, you know.
My view on the heat wave in Europe, well, a little off topic, but I guess what the heck. My view is that, we're in a terrible heat wave. It's definitely exacerbated through climate change. I don't think there's many people that doubt that. Although a lot of folks think we're in one of these cycles where we do have hot weather across the globe, which we've had for centuries, going up and down. But I think, in my opinion, things are exacerbated right now due to our situation that we're in with climate change.
That's okay. I have 2 questions, David. And do you think that support schemes in the context of renewable energy is an instrument that compensates for the various market failures that leave renewable energy at a competitive disadvantage compared to conventional energy?
Yeah, I had a little trouble understanding that. So let me just
Um,
repeat it back to you.
oh, okay.
Were you asking what challenges we face in current production versus conventional energy?
Okay,
Or could you repeat the question?
of course. Do you think that support schemes in the context of renewable energy is an instrument that compensates for the various market failures that leave renewable energy at a competitive disadvantage compared to conventional energy?
Yeah, again, I think I had a little trouble understanding
Okay,
completely, but I
one
do
moment.
believe you're asking about renewable energy and its ability to compete with conventional energy.
You can read.
My
Is it okay?
apologies.
You see in the chat? Okay.
Yeah, I believe that you're correct. Renewable energy definitely does have distinct disadvantages due to conventional energy. There's a number of those disadvantages that I don't know that they're necessarily support schemes that are disadvantaged, but it certainly is a part of it. I think the development of the infrastructure for electrical energy is really behind our ability to put out wind turbines and solar and things like that. So just the getting that renewable energy to market and storing that in a efficient manner is definitely a disadvantage compared to conventional energy. Hope that answered your question.
That's okay. Thank you, David. More questions in the chat? No? It's okay. So now question time is over. Okay. Once again, I would like to thank David Stewart for this presentation. Thank you to everyone who have been with us in this webinar. This presentation was recorded and will be available on the ABPIP YouTube channel. And so until the next webinar. Bye, everyone. Bye, David. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.